obviously. So I'm Lee Gokenauer, owner of Gokenauer Photography. And I understand we're here to talk about what I do and why I do it. And I guess I'm just going to talk to that camera. That's going to be the most natural thing to do since everybody's on Zoom. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what got me into it and my day-to-day kind of what does my week look like as a photographer and solopreneur. And then I brought a couple of my toys in and we're going to kind of talk about that. And then I'm going to attempt, we tested it. I promise you it worked when we tested it. And so we're going to hope I can show you how I go through and pick a headshot, which one we're going to use. And then I'm going to kind of do a basic edit on that headshot to show you my process. And I know we have somebody here monitoring the chat. So at any time, if you don't understand what I'm saying, because sometimes I can just babble, or if you have any questions about what I'm talking about, or anything that you think that I do or want to know, please feel free to ask it. Questions are so important with this kind of thing because it really helps me answer exactly what you're looking for. And if anybody's interested in doing this as a career, one of the things we're talking about, there's a lot of stuff with AI and cell phones, but what I do is still relevant. And I'm using those new tools to actually better what I do for you. So let's get into it a little bit. I got the little question list so we can cheat. And the first thing on it is, how and why did you choose this career? And right out of high school, in fact, I joined between my junior and senior year of high school. I've been in the Army and I spent 22 years in the military, 11 of it active duty and 11 of it in the National Guard. And while I was in the National Guard, I also did IT work. I worked for a computer company and I worked on computer networks. And when I finally retired from the Army, I was also done with the IT world. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't get any fulfillment out of it. And I had spent years, even from, I went to Germany, hold on, 1990. Okay, that's when I went to Germany. And I started taking pictures with film. And I brought that back. And I was like, this is something I really enjoy doing. And I decided I was going to try to make a job out of it. So I started Gokenauer Photography, and I kind of went around and I used Craigslist back in the day and Facebook and everywhere to kind of get my name out there. And a few years into that, I was introduced to networking, and I'm sure you guys hear a lot about that, and the Chamber of Commerce right here, and that's when my business really started to grow. I learned that if you're going to be in a community, be part of that community, give to that community, and they will give back. And that's been the success of my business. So that's why I do it. I love photography. I love money. And if I can make money doing what I love, there's nothing wrong with that. So that's why I do it. And a typical day. So for me, it's a typical week. It's all different. I never know when you're going to need a photo. So my schedule is all over the place. But as a solopreneur, meaning I'm the only person in my business, I am everything to my business. I have to. If this is something you guys endeavor to get into, you have to make time to network. The aforementioned networking, you have to get in the community. Whatever piece of that, there's so many options for that out there. I picked 3 that I really like, and I make that happen every Tuesday morning, every Thursday morning, and every Friday morning is networking. And then from there, if I'm not working, I'm editing on the computer, or I'm in the studio taking photos, or I'm in your office taking photos. In the summer and the spring, not so much this time of year, I'm outside taking photos. I think we're kind of done with that for the year. I really don't like my equipment getting wet. Even as technology gets better and better, it's more expensive too. So I don't risk it if I don't have to.
It's too much money.
Exactly, way too much money. And I've definitely experienced that. But so what happens is usually when a client wants a photograph, a headshot, we'll just talk about headshots. It's most of what I do. They'll typically email me and ask me for a headshot, and I will come up and usually kind of have a conversation with them about what they're looking for. Have they seen one they like? Does the company they work for have a specific requirement for that headshot? And once we have that information, we'll make an appointment. We'll do the photo shoot. And afterwards, and you guys will get to see an example of this, I'll send them proofs. And it's a list of all of the photos that we took that I want them to see. And then they'll pick the one or however many they need edited from that. And then I will edit it and deliver it. And typically, from time of them choosing it, it's about a 24-hour turnaround. If I get really busy, one of the things I've learned over time in a hard lesson is you can't always just put photo shoots on your schedule. You have to put time to edit them, time to post stuff. You have to remember I am everything, so I do my own marketing. So I have to make time to create social media posts, create ads. I'm in magazines around the community. I sponsor sports teams around. All these need ads created and graphics created. So that is a hard lesson I've had to learn, because we all want more and more, and we want to go and go. And when it gets busy, you're like, yeah, I can do that. I've got time on Wednesday, but Wednesday was set aside to edit that person's photo that's been waiting for 2 weeks. So that's really important. I guess what I'm getting with that, as you go through school and college or whatever your future holds, time management. Time management is so important when you're working for yourself, by yourself. The only person making your schedule is you. Now, when you guys get older with AI, who knows? Maybe AI, ChatGPT will be making your schedule. But for now, it's on you, and you got to do it. So that's my week to week. I look at my calendar. Sometimes photos will just pop in, and because they can book online, and so I gotta always kind of be ready to do a photo shoot, because you don't want to say no as long as you don't have to. So I created an online calendar to schedule, and then I schedule in my calendar time to edit and network, so that way people can't book over top of that. And as an obvious ADHD person, having that is very important to me. And then the whiteboard and power. If you're ADHD, you know about the whiteboard and power. So you gotta have the whiteboard. Absolutely. Do we have any questions yet or anything like that? Come on, guys, ask questions. I'm friendly. Kind of. No, I really am. What's the most and least rewarding aspect of your job?
Hi, Amy. This is Susan Scott with the
I don't know
Washington
about the least
School
rewarding. That's a tough
Career
one.
Program.
Nobody wants to really.
Hi, I just have a real quick thing. We have our commercial photography career spotlight going on right now, and then
Cool.
I need it. We're good to go.
Good to go. That's awesome. You gotta love the gremlins. Now I gotta. Where was I? Where was I?
Least rewarding.
The least rewarding. I don't like to think about that, but I'm going to talk about the most rewarding. All the time, because as a commercial photographer, a lot of people that come to me don't want to come to me. They're told they have to, they know they have to, and the first thing when they walk in the studio is, I hate getting my picture taken, or I'm terrible getting my photo taken. I hear this almost every day. And one of the most rewarding things I can do is when they leave, they're excited for their next photo shoot, because I was able to get them to relax. I was able to get their real smile out, and I was able to show them that it doesn't have to be scary. It can be fun. It doesn't have to be this rigid, hold still thing. We have modern gear now. We can have fun and laugh and tell jokes, a lot of dad jokes, and get that smile out there. I have found that if I can get somebody to just bust up laughing in an obscene, hilarious way, when they relax to their natural smile state. And that's what they're going to be the most happy with when you send them their photo. because that's what they love to see. Another little trick, this is a state secret, so keep this within the internet. We, as humans, almost always in live see a reverse image of ourselves. We can't see ourselves. So everything we see is the reverse of what we look like. So if you have a client that is a little conscious about that, just in Photoshop, flip the image.
Oh.
Now they're seeing what they're used to seeing. They'll never know. Everybody else will know. They'll never know, and they'll love the image. Don't always do it, but there's cases where you'll make them really happy by doing that.
So as a commercial photographer, like how did you decide, like you do headshots, how did you decide like what you wanted to specialize in, right? Are you doing print, newspaper, journalist photography? Are you doing like sports, weddings?
No, that's a good
Or are
question.
you like, I'm everything? Like when you're starting out, you're just taking all these jobs, or do you specialize? Like what was that process in figuring out what you were going to really be good at
No.
and your niche?
As a lot of people do, when I did start, yes, I did everything. I tried everything. The first to go for me was weddings. And the why, that's easy, bridezillas. The worst people on the planet to deal with. And it just became more trouble than it was worth for me personally to photograph weddings. To be blunt, I'm not into weddings. They don't do it for me. I don't get all frilly and excited. Let the people that enjoy that take pictures of it, because there'll be more passion behind it. And then the next thing for me, I decided, again, that passion word, that's what I used to decide. I looked at, again, family photos, although I'll do it for people I know. I don't market it. I don't really put it out there because I don't like chasing kids around the park. I like my subjects to be able to listen to me and respond. Sometimes that's hard with Zen. No, that's easy. But with the little guys, they're always so curious and want to see that and run over there. You can take what should be a 30-minute photo shoot and it's 6 hours long because you can't get the little kids to settle. And so I decided I'm going to take pictures not based off memories, based off of helping businesses. So when you want your photo taken, ask yourself, am I doing this photo so in 5 years or 10 years down the road, I can look at it and remember something, like a wedding or a family? Or am I taking this photo to help my small business or my business market and improve? And that's what I focused on. I found that as I grew my business, I had a passion for helping other businesses. So that's where I focused my efforts. Then I took some classes and I fell in love with creative lighting and lighting in general, and having that control and being able to shape things with light. And that led to headshots and business portraits. And that's where Hillsborough Headshots was born in my studio. And passion. I followed what I loved doing when I got excited about a photo shoot versus not so excited. As I grew and was able to network more and ask for specific clients, those are what I focused on. And then you build those relationships. A friend of mine, Dan, owns a local business here. And then as I got to know him, he's LDS, Mormon. His family is huge. And every year I go do their family photo because it just gets bigger and bigger, and I have to buy a new wider lens every year to take their photo. So those kind of things, you can be creative and be fun, and I still enjoyed that piece of the memory photo. But as a business, yeah, I focused on what I wanted to do and what I was excited to do. And I know you can't always do that in business, but as a photographer, you can, as long as you market it. And I set it's been 6 years now, it doesn't seem like it, but it's been 6 years where I set out to be a headshot photographer in this community. And I'm there, and that is fun. And now I can start reaching out and doing other things as technology and demands change. Obviously, the equipment I use folds very well into making reels and professional videos. And that's been a big part of my business, is these short content videos. People love those. You need them to market. I'm trying to keep an eye on the time too.
I have a question for
Yes.
you in the chat. So Julia asked, how do you deal with comparing yourself to other photographers and being confident in your work and not comparing?
A lot of crying, a lot of hiding my head under the pillow. No, but that's real. I mean, we all heard of imposter syndrome. It's real in a lot of what we do. In this business, it's really real, because another adage that grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. I'll look at a photo from another photographer and be in love with it and just wish I could do that photo, because it's different than what I saw. And now I'm seeing that finished product and it looks like I could never do that. But you want to know what I've learned over the years of doing this? That same photographer is probably having that same conversation about my work. So I know it's hard, but become friends with your peer photographers, but don't compare yourself. If you're doing your photos based off of your skill set, your equipment, and most importantly, your passion, because we're artists, don't kid yourself, that plays a big part in what attracts clients to you. So if you stay true to who you are in your photography, you can admire other photographers, but don't ever compare. I work with other photographers on a daily basis. My best friend is a photographer, and I refer clients to him because he does amazing weddings and family photos and sports. And he's geared for that, and he's practiced that, and he refers headshots to me. As long as you have that kind of relationship, you don't have to worry about comparing them, because you're just going to admire each other.
So your networking is not just only to get, grow your business, but also then you network amongst other photographers.
Absolutely.
Nice.
There's specialties. There's some people that, I mean, I've even had headshot clients that would come to me, and they're customers that I've done other work for, but I know that Nick or another photographer would better suit the style they're looking for. I don't hesitate to send them. You'll get more respect and return business for that. You know, you don't have to be the only one. I don't know. I hope that answered your question, Julia, but I know it's hard, and that's not going to get easier until you become friends with it. I hope that makes sense. Admire their work, but don't be jealous, even though I am every day. But it does become easier. And learn from them. One thing, if you just compliment another photographer's work that you really like, you'd be surprised how willing they are to share how they did it. And then you can grow it, and you will soon find that you're making your own style based off of what you like most of that picture. So, and that's fun. But you know what? That ties into an answer to the other one that I was kind of dodging. That's probably the least rewarding piece of my job is seeing all the other photographers out there and wishing I could do what they do. But again, it might be, I'm going to classify that as the least rewarding, but it's also a trap that you got to avoid. Admire, don't be jealous.
Do you carve out time in your schedule to where you're like either taking classes or expanding your skills as a photographer?
Absolutely. Today more than ever, continued education is so important. And there's a lot of resources, paid and free, to get that. But yes, at least once a month, I schedule an entire day for training. Because I have to catch up on, well, Photoshop came out with a new version and they've added this feature. How do I use that feature? And is it relevant to what I do? And can I incorporate it to make more money? Right? the big craze right now, AI. I can say in the last 90 days, my workflow has changed 75% because of AI. For the better. In Lightroom, we'll see this in a little bit. When I'm looking at all the pictures that I took, if I wanted to clean them up, I would have to clean up each one individually. Well, now I can clean up the first one because they're similar enough, which actually doesn't matter anymore. It's crazy to think about. AI will look at the edit that I did on the first one and recreate that edit for every image after, redrawing the masks, not copying and pasting. So now I can deliver 300 proof edits in 30 minutes,
Wow.
not 2 days. That's significant. If I take a photo in an environment that somebody doesn't like now, I can load that into Photoshop and tell it to put it in any background I want. I can even make up a background because AI generative fill lets me type in text what I want it to create. So that's huge. So constant continued education.
Yeah, so following that, Peyton from Filter a Big Picture had a follow-up to Julia's questions. Are there like specific steps of getting into the industry, like you said, networking, and like headshots and continued education? Could you kind of expand on like what it's like kind of getting into the industry and how to find that within, like you said, continuing education?
Well, yeah, the education is obviously the most important thing here because you don't want to step on your own toes. So you want to make sure you're confident with your own skill level, right? Everybody has a different skill level and everybody has a different where they want to be. When you're ready, then network. You can't, I learned this and maybe it's changing, I don't know, but you have to do real life networking. If you can't afford to put an ad in the Yellow Pages and on Comcast, you have to network. What finally got me to networking is somebody told me this, maybe I read it, I don't remember, but I repeat it a lot. You could be the absolute best at what you do. And if nobody knows you do it, they're gonna hire the best person they know. So make sure people know. So if you wanna get into it, get your gear, get your stuff, get your technique down, find what you wanna do, and start networking. Create a business, join somebody else. A lot of times you can find photographers like myself that shoot big events and we'll hire newer photographers to assist and be our second shooters. Even if you have to be a VAL, that's voice activated light stand. That means you're carrying the light around for me. You learn a lot. You don't just learn about cameras. I was a light stand guy for a photographer for years, and I already knew how to take pictures, but I needed to learn how to interact with my clients. I needed to learn how to make them comfortable. That is so important. Photography, I'm gonna get on another sidetrack and I'll circle back around. Photography is becoming so much less and less about what I can and can't do. Because obviously this is gonna take a better picture than this. But are you gonna notice it on Facebook? Probably not. So being a photographer is becoming more about knowing what gear to make the person look the best and that interaction with them to make them comfortable and relaxed in front of the camera. So continued education, definitely. Networking, definitely. Assisting other photographers and volunteering in your community. So much volunteering with photography in the last 6 years. But it's gotten me some amazing relationships and amazing referrals because I can take something and deliver to them for free what they would only get mediocre otherwise. So did that answer your question? Okay, I got sidetracked. Okay, but you got to get out there. That's the number one thing. If you're confident in your work, because it's going to get better as you grow. So if you're confident in what you're doing right now, Get out there and be confident and offer your services. Find photographers that are in your same circle of skill, and then price according to that. And then befriend and network with photographers 1 or 2 levels better than you, and you will always grow. Don't hang out with people that are the same skill. I mean, you can if they're your friends. Learn from the people better than you. Swallow the pride and learn from the people better than you. That's how they learn. That's pretty good advice.
It is.
In all fields.
Right?
Right.
So we're at 1:30. Do we have any more questions?
So let's, pursue
No, not at the moment. We
Okay.
don't.
equipment, like how did you?
That's why I was gonna start talking about the equipment. So I'm gonna see
Like
if,
starting with your cameras.
right,
There's
I'm
so
gonna
many
see if this thing
different,
will track me over here. Hello? It takes a second sometimes.
It should probably.
My name's Lee, and I would like you to follow me, camera. There we go. All right. So obviously, the first and most important thing is a camera. And I'm gonna grab a couple of lenses. I'm gonna try to trick the. And one thing that separates a professional camera from a phone, I mean, it used to be megapixels and that, but you got phones now that are 60 megapixels, 120, I think Google has some, who knows. Is this lens options and lens choices. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that much glass is going to give you a better photo than this much glass, right? The other thing a lens choice can do, this is an 85 millimeter, 70 to 200, 24 to 70. It changes your environment significantly. If I was to take your photo with this lens versus this lens versus that lens, those photos are going to be significantly different. As you get a lens wider and tighter, right? So obviously this is wider and this is tighter. The background changes, right? If I'm shooting you and you're 3 feet in front of me and I'm shooting you at 24 millimeters, I can see everything over there and I can see everything over there behind you. And you're this big thing in front of my screen. If I shoot you at 3.5 feet, because there's a minimum focus distance with this lens, all of a sudden I can only see that one sign behind me. So as a photographer, if I'm not shooting in my studio and I have to come to you or I'm doing something outside, you gotta do a little bit of exploring or at least a little bit of research and figure out what lens to bring, because none of them are light. What lens am I gonna bring that will better suit that environment for the photo I'm looking for? So as you go, your camera, you're gonna change that every 5 years unless you're lucky and you get rich right away and you can buy one in a year. But lenses, you're gonna find that magic trio. So my advice on that, this lens right here is $2,500. This one was $2,100. This is $1,800. Rent them first. You can go down to Portland to Pro Photo Supply, and for $50 or less a weekend, you can rent a lens, play with that lens, get your friends, do some photos, whatever it is you want to take pictures of, rent that lens and see if it works for you for $50 instead of $2,000. Because I have bought that one right there, lenses that I never use because somebody told me it was a cool lens. So listen to the hype. Listen. So I'm a Sony person. I use mirrorless cameras. I've switched from DSLR. Anybody in here that's high school or lower, which I think is pretty much everybody outside of this room watching, I don't think unless you want to be like people my deal and go, I still shoot film, you're never going to shoot even a DSLR again. Mirrorless.
It's very in right now.
It's in, but
The
it's retarded.
disposables.
Film is, I left film years ago and I never looked back. I can't do the chemicals, I can't, Anyway, I could chat all day about that one, but I do get it. I can imitate any film. But anyway, it's the process, and that's, to digress, that's what I think you have to ask yourself. Is the process taking the photo? Is the process editing the photo? Is the process developing the photo, right? Everybody has a different passion for it, and people who still love film, I find that most of the time, It's that process of developing the film, right? And even when I teach photography, one of the first things I do is tape up the back of your camera. Because I don't want you looking at it. I want to make sure you're confident in your settings and that you understand the exposure triangle before you can just look at the back of it. I know that's the new thing, and this is the calculator of my high school generation, right? Where, oh, you can't use it as cheating, and now I'm surprised they're just not built into our eye at this point. But for now, yeah, I digress. Mirrorless, you guys are all gonna shoot mirrorless or whatever's next. Sony just released their new sensor, their new shutter. It's the first new shutter in 50 years, and they just released it, and I'm super excited. If anybody wants to know more about it, Google Sony. So we're gonna go over here, and it's also $6,000. And so we're gonna talk, I got a couple of lights that I brought with me. This one, so you're not gonna be able to see that one, etc. So today, as a photographer, you're not just responsible for taking still photos. You gotta take video too. A lot of people, you do both, right? So that means different types of lights. If I wanted to do a video, I can't use this one because this light is a flash. It's that standard, what we all grew up with, smile, expect a bright light. The difference with these new ones, in the past, I would have a cable going from my camera over here to all these lights, and then a cable from the light to the wall to plug it in, and then I'm tripping because I'm ADHD, and I get hurt and break my arm, but I digress, that was a long time ago. Now, I put the light on a stand, I put this on my camera, and everything is wireless. I can adjust the power of the camera from here, everything, or the light, not the camera. We're getting there, but we're not there yet. That has saved me so much time and hassle going to a wireless lighting technology. And then this is battery operated, so I don't have to worry about plugging it in. So I can literally take my lights anywhere now. And having the ability to adjust the power from over there and not having to run to every light to do it has saved me. I mean, it saves me minutes during a photo shoot, and over my life so far, hours. And then for video, obviously this isn't gonna work because nobody's gonna wanna sit there and try to light a video with a series of flashes. So you have hot lights. Hot meaning they're on all the time. Obviously that nickname comes from old school lights that got so hot if you touched them. Oh, we're gonna do it? Oh, there we go. We'll magic it. But, they got the name hot light because even just 10 years ago or 5 years ago, if I was to stand this close to it, it would be burning my skin. They were really hot. The beauty of LEDs today, right? I can touch it. It doesn't barely get warm. The back of it will get warm before that light does. And then obviously having that ability to adjust. Now, this light in its original days would be blue, and I could turn it to yellow. If it's not obvious, all my yellow LEDs died. So that's all right. That's what you would use for videos. And a little light like this can provide a lot of power. As you can see, we're lighting this whole half of the room with it. I'm not sure. Oh, it's still super bright. Let me turn that down. You can turn the other lights back on. I have a couple more pieces of equipment I'm going to grab real quick. Well, just one. When I first started to kind of continue on the theme of equipment that's made a difference, technology, using modern, wonderful technology. When I first started doing video just 5 years ago, the process of miking somebody up, getting two people on a microphone separately and feeding that into a camera, I don't know if any of you guys had experience doing that, but it was a hassle. Now, this little box, I can plug it in and charge it. When you open it, this is my receiver and two microphone transmitters. All I have to do to hook it up to a camera, an iPhone, or a computer is change the adapter and plug it in. And then each one of these goes to a person and they can instantly start talking, and it has a magnetic clip so you can just put it on your shirt and talk.
Oh, wow.
what used to take half an hour to get set up, I can do in seconds now with these equipment. And that's why I'm excited for anybody your age going into this, because the tools, and this is a year old, and it's already been replaced by something significantly more powerful. I'm excited to see what you guys get to play with when you're doing my 98-year-old story. I'm excited, but that's some of the equipment I brought. Does anybody have any questions on any of the equipment or other equipment that I might use? Turn this off.
You have to insure all of them,
Yes,
because they're expensive, and
yes.
if something happens.
And it takes, I don't want to say special insurance, but specific insurance. So you want to make sure that the insurance company you choose to go with has a plan and understands specifically photography needs. Because we have from equipment needs to going into somebody's home and knocking over a vase needs, theft, and so many. I have special car insurance because I keep so much equipment in my car. And so I have special insurance that if somebody breaks into my car, at least some of it's insured. Obviously, that insurance comes with a price tag. But if you look at my car right now, and you'll notice it's missing a back right window, this is why we have this insurance. So this is why I have that insurance now. So we're at a time where that's not just the theft, but I beat this equipment up. I mean, it gets used. I use it. I don't baby it. And having the right insurance definitely gives you that confidence. So
In that, with being a business owner, entrepreneur, like your pricing for how you charge clients, and then like you've got taxes to pay, you've got insurance to pay, money setting aside for equipment, like how do you approach all of that?
Carefully. Obviously, yes, pricing is probably the hardest thing. I don't want to say it's the most unsatisfying or rewarding piece of my business, but it's definitely the hardest because you want to make money and you deserve to make money. But I also I'm a very giving person, so it's very hard for me to ask for money, even if it's services I've delivered. I've invoices I still right now today need to send. So that is something. If you're good at that, good for you, and you have a leg ahead of me already. I finally decided with my pricing a couple of years ago, and I raised it a few times every year because you know what, it costs me twice as much at the grocery store, so
Right.
I have to.
Living.
But everybody's used to that. Remember that. They might grumble and they might, but they're used to it. Everything is going up. You have the right to do that too, as a business. And then you also have the right to make money after taxes and your business. You have a right to pay yourself. So what I ended up doing is I figured out an hourly rate that works for me. And when I quote a job, even if it's just a headshot, I figure out in my head how much time it's going to take me from start to finish. And remember, solo business, start to finish is the conversation with the client, the refining conversation with the client, the photo shoot, the delivery of the photos, the proofs, the delivery, then the edit, and then the delivery. So it's more than that 15-20 minute photo shoot. So I calculate everything at $100 an hour. Because at $100 an hour, after taxes and basic expenses, I'm at $50 an hour. Conservative. So I can afford to pay myself a little bit, and then from that is where I buy my internet, my laptops, right? That's how I've chosen to do it, because I am a terrible business person. Most people hire an accountant and take care of it for you. I'm not that person, so I wing it. But that is hard. You have to figure out, and it's really, for me, I don't want to say everybody, it's really hard to put a value on myself. This is how much my time is worth, right? And I grew up in a different time where you didn't do that kind of thing. And it's hard as a solo business owner. So if you're looking to get into business and you do have anxiety around that kind of stuff, read some books, follow and listen to some podcasts, because there is a lot of help out there to overcome those money blocks, if you will. I'm not going to tell you the name of the book because it has an own word in the name, but Denise Duffield Thomas is the artist, or the author, and she wrote that book, and it's about money mindset and money blocks, and it is amazing. So and she also wrote one called, it was called Solopreneur, it is now called Chill and Prosper, and that is about doing your own business, but doing it in a way that you enjoy it. I mean, why would you run your own business doing something you don't like doing? Trust me, from an outside perspective, looking in on a business owner, a small business owner, it can look pretty glamorous. It can look like, oh, we got to sleep in today and have his breakfast. Yeah, because he didn't have any work. So there's a lot to being a business owner when you're in the business that a lot of people don't see. So anytime you get some help externally through podcasts, books, I've learned to absorb that stuff. There's a lot of really good information out there at your fingertip, more available to you than it ever was to me in the 80s. We had these things called books. I remember you'd open them, that a smell, and you'd have to read the words. It was crazy. Jeez. But all right, we're at 45 minutes. At an hour, I'm going to start showing computer stuff. So let's go down here.
I do have a follow-up question from Peyton. Peyton from Hillsborough Big Picture asked, do you have suggestions for specific educational routes to get into the industry? You mentioned business, but what about the photography side?
No, great question. I often skip over that, and that's been huge. There's a couple really good. First, big picture. What's big picture?
It's one of the,
It's like an option program.
yeah,
Cool.
it's part of the Hillsborough School
It
District.
sounds photographic. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
Are they artists? Come on, tell me it's a class of artists. But I've gone through, you pick a photographer. You know, these days it's really easy. Go on Instagram, go on social media, go on YouTube, type in photographer, and find a photographer that you like that offers courses. And then buy their courses. You can do free all day long on YouTube. Buy the courses, spend the money, invest in yourself. And that has helped me a lot. I found a headshot photographer out of New York, Peter Hurley, now makes photography equipment. He used to be a model. Anyway, awesome guy. And his whole piece of those is what I was talking about earlier. It's that interaction with clients. He has these things called Hurleyisms. Like, all right, now I want you to just lower your left earlobe a little bit, right? And when you do that in a photo shoot, it causes emotion. And that's what we want to capture, right? So find a photographer that resonates with the type of photography you do. The basics of photography, everybody's going to teach you the same thing because that's science, right? It doesn't change. But how you manipulate that into what you create does change. So find somebody you like, learn what they do and how they do it. Most people offer courses, then develop your own. And it takes time. You're going to mimic for a while, right? And you're going to find stuff that you like and you're going to try it and experiment. But how to do photography, you know what? When you're ready, Open Hour Photography offers courses. But I learned for Peter Hurley courses, and then there's this class online. It's out of Seattle. Creative Live is the website. And you can, what they do is they have all kinds of creatives on there, but they have photographers on there quite a lot. And if you can catch it when it's live, it's free to watch. But then afterwards, they sell the course. And I've bought probably 24 courses from that because they all teach the different little things. And you're going to get a nugget from each one of those classes that nugget will completely become you. How to pose people, right? That's still my challenge. Every photographer has that thing that they're nervous about, and most of them I talk to, it's posing people. If you've got a natural talent for that, again, you're a step ahead of the game. Learn how to take pictures, the rest will be awesome. Posing people is the hard one. Take all the classes you can on that. Photography is becoming easier and easier. That's less important to learn how to do. It's called the exposure triangle. Google that, learn that, you're good to go. The rest you're gonna learn creatively. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so like those degree programs, like a Bachelor of Arts or Fine Arts.
I'm never gonna say no to that. I didn't have the money for that, so it was not an option. If that is an option, you're gonna get everything I just told you in one spot, right? Obviously, if that is an avenue you wanna do that. There's the one in California, there's a big one, my friend Craig Brubaker went there the year I was born. I get to call people old too. And yeah, that will give you a level ahead of your average peers, especially in photography. 1% of photographers go to school for it. If you can afford and you find a school, I was in the Army already, I didn't have the money for it, and I hate school. Sorry, guys. I was not a school person, so I am self-taught. But what took me, I would guess you're gonna learn that in a third the time. Because it's focused by people, specifically, that's their job, is to teach that to you.
I know that for students too, who might not see the 4-year college degree route as an option, or just do not want to pursue that, Portland Community College and a lot of community colleges offer a lot of photography programs and classes, and I know that
Yep.
PCC Rock Creek does have a couple photography classes where they teach you all the basics and how to do that, and then you go out and do some different shoots as well.
Yeah, one of the photographers, he works for PCC sometimes, but mostly for Mount Hood Community College. He's the photographer there that teaches film and some digital, and I have taken a lot of his classes. A lot of the lighting techniques that I use today came from him, in-person classes. Yeah, absolutely. All of the local, I know Rock Creek has one, Mount Hood has one, obviously PCC has a great photography down in Portland, but if you can afford that and you enjoy school, or don't even enjoy, but can tolerate it, you're gonna learn a lot from it.
And it is that important part of like finding the school that's the right fit for you, because education has changed a bit, and I know if you're interested in, if like you want to go in towards like photojournalism and working for major newspapers or magazines, right? Like there's kind of a bit more of
And that's a
it's
tough one.
more competitive field and a standard.
Right, that's what I say,
So-
especially if you wanna get into journalists. A lot of newspapers are relying on crowdsource for all of their photography. So there's still some here in Oregon that hire photographers, but that competition, you better have been trained. You've been to the right school, and there are specific schools for that
Right.
photography. And that is something I always played with. I love journalistic photography, but I didn't have, you gotta have a little competitive edge
Yeah.
to get into that, and I'm not that person. So, to put that politely, right? But it's a great thing to get into still. It's an important thing. I mean, that's one of the most important pieces of photography, is capturing that historical aspect of whatever, love it, hate it, or don't care, capturing it is what's important.
Yeah.
And capturing it as neutral as possible. That's the journalistic way, right? Supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, the beauty of this profession, right? Is that you can be as specialized, or you can, to where you have to have a more formal education, to where you're self-taught, and it can take you pretty much wherever you want to go, or as your interests change and develop.
I mean, it's continuous. I just bought a class I'm going through right now on lighting techniques, and most of the techniques are techniques that I know. But this photographer, her name's Lindsay Adler, she's a world famous commercial photographer. Of course, came up on Black Friday. Of course I'm gonna buy it, right? Because I'm gonna get a nugget or two that's worth that $100. So constant, the education is not going away. in this career. It's changing by the day. It's hard to keep up sometimes. I'm going to you, let's see, would you choose this career if you could make the decision again? Is there anything you would do differently if you could? And that, I saw that question earlier, and when you're your own business, you are choosing that business every time you decide to do something, right? So if you aren't in a mindset where you would choose it over and over and over again, just don't start, because you won't be happy. I hope that makes sense. That's why I think doing what you do, you have to have some kind of desire to keep going, because there's going to be times where it's going to be really hard and you're going to have to find a new approach. The winds of fashion change, and all of a sudden you're out and the next person's in, and how do I become that? So you have to have a love for anything that you choose to do, but I will say specifically in photography, because it is a constant change, a constant shift. Like art in general, like I keep saying, we're artists. I fight that every day. I don't want to be an artist, I'm a soldier, but right, but that's what we are, and we're so passionate about it. Yeah,
And trends are always changing too.
trend is the word I was looking for. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Even since I do it, I have had to buy different backdrops in the studio, because last year everybody wanted that super bright apple white. Well, this year everybody wants eggshell or bright gray. So you kind of got to shift and learn. And you know, one advantage we have of being over here on the West Coast is we can just kind of look at what the East Coast did last year. We're going to do it this year. Sorry, but it's kind of true. And so that's what I do. I look and see, you look at your big magazines. You know, you'd never think a part of your job would be to sit down and look at fashion articles and business journals. But this is the type of customer you're gonna have. So you've gotta at least take some time to look at what the big companies, the big producers are putting out there. Because if I run a small jewelry shop in downtown Hillsborough, I'm gonna probably wanna imitate ads from Laurent or from one of these big I don't know why I picked that. Tiffany's, thank you, right? I would want to imitate one of those ads. So as a local, smaller commercial photographer, I need to learn how to mimic those, because I'm gonna get requests for it.
Do you do much still work?
A lot. I would still say 75% of my work is still images, because you know, I know everybody loves reels and everybody loves that, but a lot of that is done with your phone. And I make professional reels. I made 2 today for a realtor. Well, it was before this, so I was waiting. But my video stuff is usually a bigger production, very more equipment, so it's a little less on mine. But the photos, it's so much easier to create an ad, a print, you can create a reel with your photos, right? So I still get a lot of that, and it's significantly less expensive. And time consuming.
So
Way less.
when you're looking at revenue streams that aren't necessarily involving people and time consuming, like, you know, there's Shutterstock, there's Google Photos, there's all of these places where you can sell your images, and then some people can get for free, others they buy it.
Right.
What are your feelings about that? And
I have
doing
a
that?
pretty harsh opinion on stock. I think it's dead. If it's not dead, it's grasping for air. And even just 10 years ago, as a stock photographer, I could make a lot of money because people were having to actually pay money for my photos. Today, every stock site out there, I get maybe 5 cents when you buy an image. It's just not practical anymore. When I can go to Midjourney or Firefly from Adobe and type in, I want a picture of a business guy standing in front of this, enter, and it creates the image out of the air. Exactly what I asked for, with no copyrights attached to it. That's what I'm gonna do. So I don't want to discourage anybody that had hopes to be a stock photographer, but I don't I don't put anything into it. Now, with that said, what is becoming important, which most photographers can bring value to the table. Like I keep saying, people are using their phones, people are making reels, people are doing this. Well, they want to know how to do it better. So my biggest non-photo taking in revenue right now is consulting and classes, workshops. Creating workshops on how to make a reel. How do I use CapCut and templates, which to your average 15 to 20-year-old right now, that's life. They knew how to do that at birth. But 45 and up, we don't, right? So we want to learn. And people are willing to pay good money to be shown how to do that because they're tired of paying. For me to make a 1 minute or less reel with my phone for a business is $250. So most people want to do it on their phone, right? That's my time.
Wow.
And you'll have people that don't want to do it, they just want to pay for it. And those are your target. The people who don't want to pay for it but want to do it are a different target. They're a one-time target. So you charge them 100 or 150, whatever your class is, to do a workshop or a one-on-one consultation to show them how to do it. Because they're never going to be your customer anyway. Get out of that mindset. There's two types of people, right, in business. And you can market to both. So that, right now, I think is the hot extra that would come with our marketing. Is teaching and getting on. If you're young and energetic, which I imagine everybody on the other side of the screen is, become an influencer. Be your photographer. I mean, I am who I am, and I've got a pretty decent following. But if I had more energy and all that, and could run up hills and do cool photos, and that clout, for lack of a better word, on Instagram today goes a long way in the community. Because if you learn how to leverage real networking with social networking, see that word's in there? People forget that. It takes a huge leap. So when I started networking in Chamber, I started becoming friends and associated with businesses on Facebook that weren't photography related. So then when I post a cool reel or a sample or a photo, I'm having all these other businesses that aren't used to seeing that really kind of freak out about it. And that grows your algorithm, which then points more people to your website. And now you're number one on Google. See how that kind of all ties together? I think that's where your attention is best focused right now versus doing photos to try to sell online. I have an art photo website. I sell 3 pictures a year from it. Now I don't market it. Right? There's that. But people know it's there. I would put my energy towards building your brand. That I think as our economy shifts, right? Looking more and more of the younger, from my old person generation view, it seems like more people are focused on that individual small gig-based business than they are the Walmarts and Amazons of the world. When you have a choice, you want to go do that. And I see that more and more as the younger the people get. They want to help everyone, right? I hope I've seen that correctly. Maybe it's just in my, anyway. Do that. You'll be better, the world will be better. I think that's it. Influence is huge.
And like you said, with like stock photos and stuff, and then now that AI is a huge thing, you can go tell Midjourney, I want to see a cat swimming in a pool, and Midjourney's gonna pop that
I
out.
imagine everybody here has seen Midjourney.
Right, yeah.
Not I can show them.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, because I use it.
Are you familiar with
Is
Midjourney?
everybody familiar with Midjourney? So I could try to pull up.
I can just
You
do it.
we have
have it
yeah.
on there?
I
Okay.
pay for it.
Yeah, so
It's part of my business now.
yeah, my fiance uses Midjourney for all of his software and stuff, so I'm
Oh, yeah.
very familiar with Midjourney.
I got it because, another neat aspect, again, that continually growing and changing with the time. I was sharing with them before we started the meeting one of the services I offer now is virtual backdrops. I can shoot you in my studio against white, so you'll have that plain white headshot. But if you wanted a little bit more for your profile picture, your social media, that kind of thing, I can create any backdrop you want. Right within either this program right here, Midjourney, or within Firefly from Adobe. There's a few different options now. But yeah, it's crazy. It's pretty, I have fun with it. I'm not gonna lie, I do spend a lot of time. I was actually pulling up my Midjourney just in case anybody asked to make sure there
Oh,
wasn't
it's fun.
any funny.
It's fun.
Well, I do like these tacos wearing a cowboy.
Yeah, yeah.
I love to play.
It is.
Seen it, so.
Oh, you haven't? Does anybody want to see it?
Yeah, show them. I think it would be great to show them just because it really like shows the evolution of
We have
technology and what AI has turned into, or how, you know, AI and the use of Midjourney affects your job and how you use stuff like that.
Yeah, so everybody can see the screen, I'm imagining? Kind of have it hidden, part of it's hidden from the Zoom. So this is a program called Discord. It's a chat program. And Midjourney is an AI text to image based program that utilizes this chat program. And you have to do commands, but it's pretty basic. You just type in this case, imagine. And then you're going to type in a prompt. And with any AI, the more detailed you are, the more you're going to get out of it, right? So in this case, bear with me, I don't like to type. A conference room with a dozen people sitting around tables looking at a screen on the wall while being presented to by a commercial photographer. Make this image photorealistic, super high resolution. So you're going to describe what you get, and then you're just going to hit return, and it takes a couple of minutes, and it'll give us a couple of options that we can choose from. And sometimes you get winners, and sometimes you get jokes. Especially when it comes to people, AI has a lot of difficulty with fingers. They just can't. It's getting better all the time, but it just can't do fingers. But so the actual example of why I'm showing this, let's say I needed to create that for something I'm doing, a slideshow, a presentation, a marketing thing. I can just create it right there. And now it gives me 4 choices to choose from. And I can say, well, you know what? I really like this second one up here. So the bottom, I'll say I want an upscale version of that one. And it'll give me a full resolution version that I can download of that photo, and I am done.
Oh, I see what you're saying about the hands.
Yes, yeah, when you really look at this one, right? This guy over here, he's like, yeah, I don't know. But so you gotta have fun. But I also use this on a side note. Again, some of those, you know, you're talking about extra income generators. I have created 2 children's books.
Oh.
I just don't talk about it a lot, but they're on Amazon.
You're an author.
And
How cool.
I used AI, so I use ChatGPT to help me come up with the idea and the outline, and then I use Firefly and Midjourney to create the art for it. So again, what we do and the skills we learn and the tools we have to pay for already, you can use to other advantages. Has anybody typed in a picture they want to see, or of that? We're going to move on. I have a lot of fun with these. I've done some really cool pictures.
They are fun.
Yeah. But yeah, you can create anything that's not copywritten. If it's copywritten, it might show it up there for a minute. I've tried some Star Wars stuff, and it'll show it up there for a minute, and then you go to check back, and it's been erased conveniently for your protection. So, all right, we'll move on then. I am going to go, because we're at 208. I am going to share. Let me turn that off. I don't need. I was trying to share, and then we're just going to share my desktop. And we're going to talk about after the photo shoot, right? So in this case, I did this headshot, and you'll see we set up lighting at the beginning, so you kind of start with some terrible photos, and as you go, she gets more comfortable, you kind of figure out the lighting. In this case, we had to, when you have somebody with glasses, you have to make sure the light is not showing up in the glasses. You just hope they have really expensive glasses. It's a difference. But what you do here is you go through as the photographer and you cull the images. You go through and you find the ones that you want the client to see, and you get rid of the ones you don't want the client to see. Because not every photo is going to come out perfect. There's blinky. They might have one where they look really goofy and really funny, and you don't want to really share that with them if you don't know them very well, because it might make them not like the rest of the photos. It'll put a bad taste in their mouth, right? Like, like this. I know this lady very well, so I actually might have made that somebody's profile picture, but you gotta have fun with it. So once they're cold, and I use a star rating system. In this case, 3 stars is what I've sent to the client. Then I have a website that you can go to where the client can see all those photos. They can look at them and compare them and send them to their friends and take 2 weeks to figure out which one they want edited. And then they send that number back to me, and I'll see that on the website. I'll pick that photo, and then I'll make that a 4-star rating. In this case, let's pick this one, and I'll make it a 4-star. So then I know that's the one we want to edit. And before I put it into a program like Photoshop, I will go into develop. This is really hard because Zoom is covering up my develop. Well, we'll deal with it. So I will look at the picture, and my first look at this, I know she's wearing a black shirt. I know it's white behind her, but the black isn't quite black. It kind of bothers me. It's a little faded. So we can start working with it. And in the past, we could do big universal changes like this, but you'll see how it's changing her hair and her skin and all that. Again, the beauty of modern technology. I can now click over here to the masking option. I can create new mask, and I can select person, or I can go here to select people. It'll take a second to analyze the photo. Obviously, the newer computer you have, the faster this is going to be. Once it has the person, I can tell it to create a mask of just that person's clothes. Now I create that mask, and I can affect edits on just her clothes. So I can actually make that black look a lot stronger black. And I can continue to do that for her hair, for every piece of it. And as you can see, a lot of it's already been done on this. Now, if I want the background a little whiter, because it may look white, but if we compare it to white, it's not white, right? I can go again, back here, select background, and it does a really good job these days of letting me just select that background. And you'll see up here, it's still a little bit, I didn't want to mess with her hair too much, so maybe we're just going to bring up the whites, and look at that. Now we have a pretty clean headshot right from there. But we're not done yet, because our clients love one thing about what we do: de-age. So let's go into Photoshop. Let's take 20 years off her face. Not really, that would be pretty incredible. I mean, I could do it. Nobody wants to see that. All right, let's see if you guys can see. Did I tell it to go to Photoshop? Or did it snap? I can't see. What is it? Photoshop. Is everybody having fun?
Yes.
Is it better than class? All right, now let's edit in Photoshop. So now we're in Photoshop. And this is gonna be really fun.
What are those, for those who don't know, the differences between Lightroom and Photoshop? Like,
Oh, no, that's a good question.
where you're doing some stuff in Lightroom, but now you're like, okay, now I want to do it in Photoshop.
Right. It used to be, Lightroom was what was called a digital asset manager. You would use it to organize, cull, kind of what I just showed you, which is why you see me use it that way. And then as Lightroom has developed, they've added in some pretty powerful editing tools. A lot of new photographers don't ever use Photoshop. Lightroom is more than capable. I learned Photoshop years ago, so I'm very good at it. What Photoshop allows you to do is not just masking, but it allows us to do layering and color separating and different things that are now starting to become available in Lightroom, but aren't still. And that's a style of editing I do. So everybody has a different choice. I can't remove the wrinkles under her eyes in Lightroom. I'm not that good at Lightroom. I can do it amazingly in Photoshop. So Photoshop is strictly a photo editing or creating program. Lightroom is more designed to manage and edit. Not
And they're
create.
both Adobe products, right?
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, when you pay the $10 a month, you get both. Whether you want one or you get both. They're just smart that way because they know most people aren't gonna. Yeah.
Is there anybody out there that's a competitor to
Lots.
Adobe?
Yeah.
Or
Up
is
until
Adobe still like,
Adobe's probably the most
Photoshop?
popular all around. Commercial studio photography, it is not. One called Capture One is actually more popular. It's better for tethering. It's more color accurate. I used Capture One for years. It's the same as $10 a month or whatever. But when Adobe came out with this AI stuff, I switched back over because I'm a nerd. I love jumping on the new stuff. And Capture One, because of what they do and who they work with, they tend to not change things very fast. Because that world doesn't like change very fast. They like to be able to get what they know done. So I switched back over to Adobe. But yes, lots of competition. In Photoshop, as far as editors and creators, there's Pixelmator. It sounds Mater, right? It sounds funny, but it's actually a very powerful, relatively free program. So there's free options. Adobe's just, they're the Kleenex. They got the market.
so like if you're doing fashion photography for like magazines and
You'll
stuff, are
probably
they
see Capture
using
One.
Capture One?
Capture One offers a feature. Let's see, I'm a photographer in Portland, and I'm doing a photo shoot with a model, but the magazine's in New York. The magazine director can be on his iPad watching everything my camera does and directing the shoot.
Wow.
Things like that Lightroom does, right? So different purposes, different things for different needs. It's pretty cool. So I'm gonna try to do this. I didn't anticipate the Zoom sharing thing being all over. Oh wait, I can minimize it a little bit more. So we're gonna try this. Okay. So in this one, what I wanted to show people is a couple of things. The basic process of what I do to edit a photo doesn't change. Each photo is going to change from photo to photo, but the method in which I go through to edit, and everybody's going to have a different way of doing this. This is one thing you're going to take class after class and watch video after video and try technique and technique. There is no right or wrong way to do something in Photoshop. There's a million ways to do the same thing. Do what works best for you, right? So in this case, I go through and I look, and we kind of already did this in Lightroom, but this little button down where this being hidden, I'm going to be able to create what's called levels. And this shows us the level of light, brightness to darkness throughout the entire image. Anything to the left of the graph is dark. Anything to the right is bright. And so I'm going to affect it. So obviously this big peak way down here, that's her shirt. Then this is going to be her skin and probably her hair and her teeth. So as I move this slider, it's going to more refine light to dark and show us a little bit higher definition or not a contrast of an image, right? Little subtle things. I'm not sure how well Zoom is going to translate you see, but see that slight little difference in there. Then I'll go through and I'll zoom in. This is the part everybody loves. They hate it. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And I'm going to go through and create a blank layer. And I'm going to have this little editing, this remove brush, and see all these little white dots. I won't make you guys suffer through all of this. All these little things make a big difference. This is lint.
Mhm.
We can't get rid of all our lint from black, but I can get rid of a lot of it in Photoshop. So I'm gonna go through and get rid of all of the big chunks of lint. And it may not look like it's making a difference right now, but when I zoom out and do a before and after, it does make a big difference. All right, but we're not gonna get too technical. Then we're gonna go through and I'm gonna find any spots of her skin that might have pimples or some discoloration. So it's not that everybody has bad skin. It's that my lights are so strong. They bring out every little thing. So we've got to kind of calm that down a little bit, right? We don't have to soften everybody's skin, but it doesn't hurt to get rid of some nose hair and little blemishes, right? So we're gonna go through.
So you're using an iPad?
So if you guys can't see, sorry, that's a good point.
Yeah.
This is a tablet, and I have learned to, with the mouse, it's kind of clunky, but this is literally like a pencil and a piece of paper. So I have very fine control on how I can move my mouse, just like I would if I was drawing on a piece of paper. So now I'm gonna zoom back out, because I don't want to do too much of each thing. Oh, there's one piece of hair I definitely want to just, not with a lot of caution, I'm going to just eradicate this. See you later. Bye. This one I did a really good job actually, so it was determined one to demonstrate this. But sometimes if you have really oily skin, you can get big bright spots on the skin. And we want to clean that up. So I'm going to create another blank layer, but here under, this is called blend mode. I'm going to go down and I'm going to tell it, I want it to darken everything I tell it to do. So I'm going to go into a spot like best one we've got, this little highlight right here, and still, I personally still use the remove tool and just circle that spot and it'll blend it in. And any of those little bright spots, I'm just guessing there because she doesn't have hardly any. And that's that. Okay, now the fun part. We're gonna go through and do her eyes. So right here, nobody likes bags under their eyes. And when you use high-powered lights, everybody gets bags under your eyes. So how do we get rid of it? Well, we use modern technology. Just like we did with the highlights, the first step I do, I'm going to create a new layer and I'm going to tell it to lighten everything. And then I'm going to take that remove tool and I'm going to follow the dark lines. And this is, sometimes you do it, you got to redo it. You do it, you got to redo it. Because it's using an algorithm to decide what I'm asking it to do. And sometimes it gets it right and sometimes it doesn't. This right here, what I'm doing, used to take a very long time. But the latest version of Photoshop, this tool that I'm using, actually is using AI, an algorithm of AI, to interpolate what I'm doing and what I'm trying to remove, versus just looking at the textures around it like it used to. So it's significantly smarter, as you can see. Look at that.
Wow.
Now I will go to the other, well, here, I'll show you. Look at that. But we don't want, that's so unrealistic, right? Typically what we'll do is back that off. So let me do the other eye and then I'll show you what I mean. So we're gonna go through, erase, erase, and I'm gonna be a little less careful, I apologize. But if I start focusing on this, I will forget you guys exist.
ADHD.
Absolutely. Being ADHD and being a photographer can be a blessing. If you're like me and you're on the spectrum, because all that's changed from back when
Right.
but on the spectrum of where you get hyper focused, man, you can get so much work done in front of this computer so fast. Put on the right music and just go. Just make sure you tell somebody or set an alarm to eat.
Right.
That happens a lot. You're like, oh, I'm really hungry. That's why I'm mad.
It's now 2 a.m.
Well, yes, or tomorrow. That happens today. So, all right, so here's the before and after for eyes, right? Pretty significant. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually bring that down to about 60%. Because we don't want it to be perfect, right? She's not an infant. And it starts looking really fake, really fast. So you wanna be careful with that. But you can see the difference. I might actually be friendly. Let's go to that 7%. Then, me, a personal choice. Every photo, it's about the eyes. And this, I'll get caught going overboard on this every once in a while. But I love to bring out the eyes. The teeth I would normally whiten, but we already did that in Lightroom these days. We can get away with that. So we're gonna go to an eye, and I have a plugin. Plugins are something you, sometimes they're free, sometimes you pay for them and you literally plug them into Photoshop. And they do things that Photoshop can do, they just do it easier. They use a script. So I use Retouch Pro, and it has this eye feature that I love, where I can enhance the iris.
Can you do things like get rid of glare and,
Yes.
wow.
Now this glare you want, this is intentional. This one, that's called a catch light. And that actually makes the eye round instead of flat. That's my light. That's put in that spot of the eye, very intentional. So I am now going to basically just brush into the pupil, and you'll see a little bit of brightening coming up. I'll do the other one real quick. And then I always back that off because people tell me I go too far, and then I go to final touch. And this adds contrast, is what it's doing to that eye. And so the end result, when we get out of it, is this subtle but little eye pop. I'm not sure if you can see that on Zoom or not, but it just adds a little bit of life to the eye. And that little bit of life to the eye can add a lot to the overall photo. And now, I have a hair thing. I like to add a little contrast to the hair, just to make it pop. Girls like it. It makes it look like they just got out of the salon a little bit. So we just add a little bit of that in there. See, that's some highlights.
So Retouch Pro, that's your plugin.
Yeah.
So that doesn't originally come with Photoshop.
Nope, it costs, I think it was $150.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it comes with, so you can do all of this. As you can see, as I click buttons in Retouch Pro, it's creating things on the right-hand side. So these are all things I could manually do in Photoshop. It just creates an easy script to do the common thing. So this is the retouch. So you have skin retouching, so softening, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to do that a different way. Then you got eyes, teeth, hair, all of that. You can go in and manipulate. Do I want to thin your face? Do I want to do all that kind of stuff? Then you can do, I can change the color of your clothes. I can add special effects with water overlays or presets. So it adds a lot of pop. Makes it easier, adds my workflow. Anything you can do to increase your workflow for the standard stuff will save you hours at the end of the month. So as you can afford these other, the bigger plugins and stuff, it just makes a big difference. So, and then once I'm done with the hair, the last thing I do, I'm going to go through and I'm going to flatten. It's called you create a new layer based off of everything you've done so far. So this new layer right here that I've created is everything added together. Then I'm going to go into filters, and I'm going to go into neural filter. These are, they call them neural filters before AI came out, but they're kind of a neural learning. A lot of computers now have neural processors in them. So as more people do, it learns more. And built into it is skin smoothing. And I think it does a really good job. If I turn on skin smoothing and I go to about halfway down on each one, it creates a very natural look that I can then save if I can see the button. There we go. I'm going to save it as that current layer. And now I have that. What did I just do? There we go. It's this new layer right here with that skin softening. So when I zoom in, you'll notice It's just ever so slightly removing the shadows and highlights off the skin, not the texture. That's the problem with a lot of these cheap phone filters, is they just get rid of the texture. The professional software gets rid of the color differences, not the texture. So your face still looks like a human face, but it looks cleaner. Then when I'm done, the last thing I do, this I learned from a photographer that I can't remember, it's called the 20-10 rule, and it helps focus people in on that piece of the photo that you want, the center of your face, right? So I wrote a script, but basically what it's doing is you do one layer that's 20, and it's creating a filter, a high pass filter over this, sharpening the whole picture. But we don't want to sharpen the whole thing, so I've created a mask that erases. It doesn't show anything unless I draw over it, which is what we're going to do right now. So now anything that I'm drawing with white will get rid of the red, which means it's taking effect on the photo. So I'm going to take this level of this sharpening, let's just call it that. Photoshop uses print words. Sharpening all over the face. And then I'm going to create the next one at a little bit stronger right in the middle, right here. And again, this is going to be subtle, so I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it very well on Zoom. But what it does is when you're looking at the photo, it just makes that middle piece of the image pop.
Yeah.
Right? And that separates yours from the next guy or gal or whatever person. So, and then that's done. At this point, I would save this image, go back in and deliver it to the client as a finished product. I hope that was entertaining and fun. I got my work done for the day because that was the photo I needed to edit. But no, that's the difference. Becoming a professional photographer, listen to your client and learn what they want. Having that conversation about the level of editing they want is so important, because from one client to the next, you might have somebody that just doesn't want any. You know, they don't wear makeup, they don't do anything, they just like the way they look. But then the next person doesn't. They have some confidence issue. Whatever, there's a million reasons why they want you to over edit or super edit the photo. The most important thing is in the end is you want them to be excited about using the photo. So whether it's a preference of yours or not, you're not creating your art here. You're an artist creating somebody else's art, if that makes sense. You're representing their brand as a commercial photographer, not you. I go out on weekends and I take pictures that I enjoy during my walks and cats and things that I enjoy. That's my art. That I can edit however I want. But you got to remember, one of the things that's hard to remember as an artist and a commercial photographer is listen to your clients. Don't always give them, we're not all Steve Jobs. We don't know what everybody wants before they want it, right? We got to give them what they're asking for. Sometimes you got to swallow a little bit of pride and deliver what they want. But anyway, this is cool. This was a fun photo. She's an amazing client. And I am going to end. Oh, there it is. Stop share.
How does that work with, like, protecting your images, copywriting? Like, if you do a photo shoot and you give 5 images to this person, to that client, how and where can she use it so that it's giving credit to the photographer?
Right. No, that's absolutely.
And that's a big piece, right? Of like where we know where they're taking.
I never
other
ask my
people's
clients to
images.
tag me. If my client chooses to tag me, that's on them. But I don't know what their branding is. Maybe their branding isn't tagging everybody in the world that's helped them. I'm okay with that. This isn't TikTok and Instagram, right? I mean, it is, but it isn't, right? In this aspect. So you get over it on that one. If they want to tag you, they'll tag you. Don't be that person emailing them, why didn't you tag me? Not part of my business. What they pay for is what they get. And there's a level of trust. So with commercial photography, if I take a picture for a realtor selling a house, in the contract for that is they can use the images to sell that house. If they want to use those images later to market their business, that's a different contract, that's a different fee. There's trust involved. And then obviously, you know, trust but verified. So you used to have to still kind of look. There's AI resources out there now where I can upload a photo and it will tell me if somebody's using it or not. It's not perfect, but it's getting there. And the reason I kind of hesitantly talk about this is I came to a mindset years ago. I don't watermark my images. I don't do any of that because I personally feel the second you watermark your image and then post it, the only thing people see is the watermark, period. It's the most forward thing. It's the most obstructive thing in the photograph. You just ruined what could be a really cool photo by being afraid somebody's going to steal it. The people that are going to steal it are going to steal it. I just removed somebody's eye bags in 30 seconds. You think it's hard for me to remove your watermark? So my personal opinion on that is there's other ways to do it. Build the relationship with your client. Make it so they don't want to rip you off. Swallow your pride and realize that not everybody's going to understand the rules of copyright protection. And sometimes you have to educate them. And sometimes that means you got to let one go. Say, hey, you know what? I saw you use that photo over here. That's cool, but I just want to explain to you, this is the way that's legally supposed to work for in the future. I don't like confrontation, so I tend to go that way. I learned a long time ago, some people just are not going to be your good client. And that's okay. Now, in Lightroom and Photoshop now, there's tools to digitally embed your watermark.
I was just gonna ask right there.
So if
That's
you really want to do it, you can do that, and I do. And so if you need to verify later that that was your photo, you can. And they can't easily get rid of that one yet. Metadata was a thing forever, but people realized really quickly the second you load a photo up to Instagram or Facebook, it wipes out the metadata. So I don't know if it still does, but it did for a while. So that's what people would do.
I have a friend who's a photographer, and she does a lot of food photography.
Yeah.
And she lives in Denver, and she had taken a picture she was out with her family, and it was like just gorgeous in the presentation. Well, she discovered a couple months later, and she posted it on Instagram. Well, somebody took that picture and used it in a food blogger, and she's like, she's making money off of a picture that I took with my family that I took, but she's using it, taking the credit.
Here's the other trick, and this is the legalese piece, and I'm not an attorney, so don't quote any of this as legal. It's just my understanding of the rules for copyright. If I take a photo, and it's my photo, and I post it on Facebook or whatever, and somebody sees it, they take it and they use it in their ad. I have the legal right to tell them stop, and to stop using it. I missed one crucial step to be able to sue them for money.
Mm-hmm.
You can't sue for compensation unless you've registered your image with the Copyright Office.
Oh.
Most people don't know that. So, and you have to do that before publishing. Posting to Facebook is publishing. So the second you take a picture and post it to Facebook, you're out. So what you're supposed to do as a professional is you take your images, and there's a website where you can make a thumbnail and gather them all up, and you upload, it keeps changing every year, how many you can upload at a time, and it's $30 a pop for every upload, not a picture, but for the whole upload. Then those are registered to you. And if somebody uses them, you have proof. But you have to do that before you publish it. And then if you do that, you can go get money from it. Now there's other things that you can get money from, but it won't be directly from the photo. So it happened a few years ago, Toyota, the national ad had random people's picture from, I think it was one of those photo sharing sites, I can't remember which one now, that they just went, grabbed, and used.
I've had brands do that off of my Instagram because I had something in my photos that related to that brand. That brand would take that image and use it for direct marketing on their Instagram, and I've had it happen. I only had one brand like actually reach out to me and ask if they could use my photo, and I of course said yes. I made no money off of that
You
at
usually
all.
won't anymore, right? Yeah.
But I've also seen a couple brands take other photos and just use them or repost on
So you do
YouTube.
have to be diligent and you have to be aware of that. You're not going to stop at home today. I mean, that's just the reality of the world we live in. So just be aware of it and know what battles to fight, right? I know that's a very lackluster way of an attitude towards it, but I don't go after it. If I become so famous one day to where that one of my pictures holds a significant value, I might change my mood or my attitude towards it, but not right.
Do you think in a way that it could be good for marketing in your brand, as if like a brand or a company sees a photo and picks it up and posts it and they're bigger, then it like provides
do the right-
exposure,
absolutely.
They like
Look
tag
at what
you in
the
or
chamber
something,
does for
right?
me. They do
Yeah.
that all the time, right? That's part of my business as a commercial photographer. And I always allow that as long as, like you said a minute ago, that respect was there and they asked.
Yeah.
And they're not, if they're just doing it to highlight something, they're not making money directly from that. Let me have some of that too. If I've got 950 followers and they've got 150,000,
Mhm.
yeah, I want them to share my work. That's the reality of today.
Mhm.
Sharing is caring. I mean, the algorithms love that, right? So that's, if you get the right company, if I did a photo, Peter Hurley, for example, and I talk about him all the time and I tag him in my photos even because this is Peter Hurley work, right? His art, his style. If he was to grab one of those and reshare it, would I care? No. No. Nobody that hires Peter Hurley is gonna hire me, right? So that's not an issue. But people that can't afford Peter Hurley might hire me. That's one way to look at it.
So it can provide exposure.
Yeah.
So there's like
If
a
played
good way
right,
at looking at like quote unquote, I guess, copyright or somebody using your images, it can provide brand exposure and network.
as long as, and here's a big important piece of that sometimes younger minds don't think about because they don't have the life experience.
Mhm.
As long as that company that shared it aligns with you, right? If they don't align with who you are as a person, maybe you don't want that association. We've all seen how that can backfire these days, right? So you gotta be careful of that too. You don't want just everybody sharing,
Yeah.
because even though they're more popular than you, they could bring your brand down.
Mhm.
So,
Like the big thing with like photos and photography and stuff is like influencer marketing and brands using influencers to promote their products and stuff. And then you'll hear some of them say, well, I'm gonna turn down that $100,000 brand deal because it doesn't relate to my brand. It doesn't,
Right.
qualify with who I am
Absolutely.
and stuff. So there's like a little bit more like.
I've actually had that more than once where somebody wanted to hire me for a specific type of job, and I'm like, yeah, no, I can't do it, but it's not something I care to have in my portfolio
Yeah.
or on my invoice.
How do you kind of navigate that, especially if they're like ones that.
I find a
really
referral
good?
point.
They're like, okay.
I network with them, I know enough people that typically I can find somebody, that's into what they're asking for, or in that style, or, you know, that kind of thing. Very rarely do I not. I'm all about, I don't like to just say no.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna say no, I at least wanna provide an option. And you find that you get a lot of return respect, even though you're turning their work down. They might throw somebody back at you that they feel might fit you because of that respect.
It's like that, no, but
Correct.
it's always but.
In Apple, or was it somebody I trained, they always taught us, don't just say no, say no, but let's go find out. It was Apple, that's what it was. If you didn't know the answer to the question, no, but let's go find out together, right? Make it in Apple, rainbows and unicorns. I really miss working for them.
Is there most industries have a code of conduct, ethics. Is there a professional code of ethics for photographers, for commercial photography? Like
Yes, there used to be a lot more than there is today, because the market's opened up, digital, like everything else. And technology has allowed a lot more people to come into different industries, right? Photography is no different. So there is, right? You typically, you don't charge other photographers for your photos, you don't, little things within the world. And if you have a client, a good example, right here in the chamber, there's more than one photographer in the chamber, right? Myself and Brubaker probably being the two biggest in the chamber. Brubaker has been doing photography for a lot longer than I have. And he's very good. He's old school and he's a completely different style. And life right now has him doing a little bit different things. But any chance where he comes and says, hey Lee, this is my client. So we do a lot of wake ups. And I do a lot of photos at different businesses. And every once in a while he'll be like, Lee, this is my client. Can I come take photos at Chamber today instead of you? Absolutely. I'm not here to steal your client. And I think if you're going to talk about a code or an ethics thing, that's the biggest one, is don't go after. If another client comes to you because they saw something you did, that's great. Just be a good person and go talk to the photographer that they're going to be replacing you with and let them know, right? Don't hide it. But most important, don't target it either. That's me. And I know a lot of my friends feel that way. If I refer somebody to you, treat them the way I would treat them. But I don't know of anything past that, industry-wide. Within my circle, within the Hillsborough community, the photographers that do network that are part of my community, we all respect each other. We work together. We help each other. You know how nice it is if Nick or I can't think of his name. Oh God. Anyway, he's a photographer. Roland Sales. Not Roland, he just changed his media. Roland Sales Media. If he's not busy or I'm not busy and he needs help or I need help, it's so nice to be able to pay another photographer that knows how my equipment works versus somebody I would have to just do it anyway, right? So I think having that mutual respect among photographers, that if I do go help him, I'm not talking mine. He shoots differently than I do. He gets to that end process differently than I do. I'm not there to interrupt that. I'm there to help them. That's another piece of it. Because there's no right or wrong. There's just different techniques. And as long as you, and more importantly, the client are happy with it at the end. But I don't know. That's a good question because I haven't really thought about it past that. Because the photographers I work with, we just all respect each other. Yeah. Let me pick another random question here. So now what do we got? 15 minutes. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Anyway, anything equipment wise? I didn't play with this. I brought this just in case I need to talk. So let's talk about it. This is another cool tool, technology. This is a 4K, 120 frame per second stabilized video camera.
Wow.
Right. So when you want something that can create very good quality, better than, well, maybe not better than the new iPhone 15, but the new version of this one's old, does better, right? So you don't always have to use your phone. This can carry in your pocket. It can shoot standard landscape or portrait. If you don't like the little screen on the back of it, you pull this little adapter out and it has one for iPhone and then everybody else. Including with the iPhone, I guess. I have the last generation. So then you can click this onto here and your phone will become the screen for the camera.
Oh, wow.
And the control. And if you're making your own content, I can then set this on my tripod and this will follow me.
And what is that called again?
This is called a DJI. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. It's probably right in front of the face. But it's a Pocket, Mini Pocket Pro, I think it's called, or something like that, Pocket. But I bought this years ago and I buy every one that comes out now. So like I said, you want to make, and I can plug this microphone kit right into it. So then you can have two people talking. All this equipment is, I just get so giddy. I'm a gadget guy. There's no question about it. So if anybody ever wants to just get together and talk about the equipment that I use, we can talk all day, because I do love it. Yeah, let me pick one, because there was one other one on here. What are the related careers that I know? These days, photographer is not photographer, it's media person.
Yeah,
Right? I mean, you can choose to just be stills, but you're gonna be hurting yourself. Learn it, your camera does it all, learn it all. What is the outlook for this career? That's actually, there we go. So AI, a lot of people in my world, the big discussion right now is AI, with a lot of everywhere. I imagine in school it's crazy.
mhm.
I couldn't even imagine trying to grade a writing assignment today, right, with AI. But I see this all the time on Facebook and Instagram, this ad, hey, $30 and I'll take any photo of you and turn it into a AI generated headshot. And they look pretty good, right? Right now, they're still looking kind of fakey, but they look good. And so what does that mean in a year? They're gonna look perfect, right? So a lot of people are very afraid of that aspect of it. And there's a right to be, because it can take over. You've seen what it's done with the editing. If I can take 3 pictures with my cell phone and create a professional environment headshot out of that using AI, that is a concern to me. But I've taken a different approach. I've embraced AI. And if that's what you want to do, you are probably never going to be my customer anywhere. I'm not a $30 headshot photographer. So use the AI to better yourself, make what you do more efficient, more cost effective, and more effective. Maybe those teachers hate ChatGPT for your homework, but social media loves it for your posts and your algorithm. Like I said earlier, the more detail you give it, the more you get from it. So if I go in there, I do that thing where I tell it, hey, scan the internet, learn about Gokinawa photography, ask me 25 questions about my business. I answer those 25 questions all in the same chat. And then I ask it to be my social media manager. And it can create some amazing posts I would have never thought to. So use that. That's $20 a month for a social media marketing expert. So use that. And then embrace the other components of what this career does. There's a psychology piece to what we do. I got to make you relax in a very nervous environment. So the better you're at that equipment piece, the camera piece, it's going to be not Siri, sorry. The better, that's going to become easier and easier and more available to more people than ever before within the next couple of years with technology. What's not is that ability to make somebody smile legitimately, somebody to relax, somebody, right? That isn't going to be, AI can't do that yet. That's where you want to focus. If you're going to get into photography I personally, any level, not landscape, that doesn't matter. Learn the psychology of making people relax. Learn that. Learn posing. Learn those little tips and tricks that can make somebody feel so much more comfortable about themselves, like turtling your throat, right? To lift it up, push it out, things like this. Curl your tongue up underneath the bottom of your mouth, because it'll pull up in the bottom of your tongue. These little tricks are what you want to learn that are going to make people pay you hundreds of dollars for one photo, right? I am a mid-level priced photographer. And my starting package is $250 for one photo, 15-minute session. But I've earned that. But I have a friend that's $500 for that same photo.
What's the difference?
Experience. Experience, the experience you get, the experience, the photo, the editing, the knowledge of lighting, the dynamics of the camera. There's so much I'm learning still. Every day I look at my photos from last year and I'm like, whoa, right? That's the difference. I've been doing this for 10 years. That person's been doing it for 30. Obviously, I would hope their photo has a lot more pop than mine does, because they've learned editing tricks. They've learned so much more than me. That's the difference. When I first started out, I was $75 a headshot. That was 6 years ago.
So do you have a mentor?
I do. Well, I don't have a photography mentor right now. I have a video mentor because that's where I'm trying to focus a little bit more of my learning. So Dodge Media Productions, to member of the chamber, her name's right on there. We're next to mine. She's amazing and she does films. They do movies where they hire in producers and sound. I don't do that. I do short form content, but the tips I'm learning from her elevate. That's why I get $250 for a 1-minute video, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how quickly you just run out of time. I have a business mentor. As I keep saying, I'm an artist. I am a horrible business owner. I tell people my goal in business is to hire my boss. And I'm not kidding. I want to hire my boss. I want to pay somebody money to tell me what I'm doing that day. I would love to be able to do that. But in the meantime, I have a mentor. Another person that's a member of the chamber. He's actually an insurance person, but he's a great business person. He's a great member of the community. And so we meet once a week and we talk about business. And that is so important. We tend to get into photography as creatives. That's what draws us into it. And then you realize you gotta charge people for it. And that means you gotta pay taxes and you gotta have systems in place and
Right.
That's where I've got my mentorship. The photography mentorship, I haven't really done in the last year. And you actually made me think about that. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm missing that. But I do have business mentors and video mentors.
And then, so for somebody like students who are new and starting out and want to job shadow or, be a, find a mentor, are there places that you can direct them to do that or to find
It's
that?
hard to do that and get paid. You can do that all day long for experience because photographers love assistants. And sometimes that's what you have to do. And then you will find those photographers. Like I've got a couple people that I hire less and less now that I have the studio to help me carry my gear and all that. I'm getting older and I don't, it's harder to carry that stuff around. It's a great way to learn. And usually it pays between, depending on your experience, 20 to 50 bucks an hour. So, a lot, and it's usually under the table. Great way to just watch that photographer. Ask questions. As you work more and more for them, right? You start out free, they start to like you, they just pay you for the bigger jobs, then you start asking questions. Then ask, when you really get to know them, ask them to bring your camera. That's how I did it, and start shooting. Other than that, if anybody wants, I'll mentor. I love teaching. I don't mind people. I can't pay every time, but if somebody just wants to sit down and talk and learn, even if you know how to take pictures, what's the business piece of it? I'd be happy to chat. I love mentoring. It's what I like to give back to, I had so many people help me. And it's so hard when you're just getting out of school and you're just starting a business because everybody wants money for every little thing, right? It's so hard. Take advantage of people like me that get excited about new people coming in and want to help you. And sometimes you just have to do less of this and more of this, right? 2 ears, 1 mouth technique, and listen. And you're not going to do or vibe with everything they do, but you're going to pull that nugget from it. And those nuggets will then become you. I think I said that earlier. I live by that. I'll take a class 2 or 3 times because every time you pull something different, or you're like, oh, or you've learned another technique that just tied into that you forgot about. So,
Do you have a way for students to contact you that you would like to share?
yeah, my website, phone number, email, whatever.
Whichever, if you want to type them in the chat or say them aloud, for the sake that this is recorded, I can put it out before.
Yeah, no, I actually, hang on, let me find it because in my other networking Zoom meetings, I have a cut and paste that it's all my info. So I'll just paste that in the chat. I didn't think about that. There you go. There is all my information.
Anybody have any last questions?
If not, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to me talk.